Hi, this is Chuck with ABR Industries. This week's feature is going to be on the cable jackets that we offer to the marketplace. Sometimes people don't realize that not utilizing the right jacket in the cable itself will actually decrease the performance based on a lot of environmental factors. So let's dig in and talk about the different cables that I have and the different jacket types that I offer. So, as winter storms have come about, it's reminded us of different environmental factors and the jackets that cables face. A lot of the applications meet different temperatures, motion demands, and durability over a lifetime of the cable, which simply said is we want you to actually place your product and forget about it for the future and have it perform normally in your environment. Unfortunately, with the choices of the cables that are available, it becomes a little bit of alphabet soup. A lot of the plasticizers that are used today are pretty common and they're easy to obtain. But there is a wide variety that are used, and there is some confusion as to sometimes what is the right product. We try to fulfill the cables with the right types of application and the right type of jacketing choice. So let me go through all these different choices and talk about some of the features and benefits of each version that we have today. So the most basic product or simplest is standardized PVC. It's very low cost, it's easy to process, and the flexibility is okay. But it's realistically not very useful for a lot of applications that we see within regards to outdoor systems, such as having your antennas up outside, having them deal with different chemical resistances, or being along salt water, or needing to bury the product. But it's still popular for hookup wire, basic antenna wire, and basic cat cables. So let's dive into actually some of the jackets that are much more popular, and we can start talking about the different benefits of those items. So the next product is the polyethylene. It's excellent against moisture resistance. It is a little bit stiffer than the PVC product, and it does have a little bit of limitation regarding the temperature performance. But it is a good outdoor cable, and it can be buried with a Type 2 jacket, which is what is a standard that we provide. So the temperature range is typically minus 40 to 80 degrees C. It's a pretty decent range, but it sometimes doesn't always fit in some of the extremes. However, a lot of the standard RG58, 174, 213, 214, and 223 cables all have this jacket on there, and they do handle the weather nicely. The question that always comes up from there is, okay, that's great, but what happens if I have a high flexing application, such as a rotor or dynamic testing, or I need to twist and turn it in a vehicle? In those cases, we do use a polyurethane type of product. It is very flexible. It does have an abrasion resistance to it, and it is also good against oil and gas. It does cost a little bit more than PVC, but in most cases, jacket changes are just a little bit of a penny change here and there. The performance is a little bit better as far as minus 40 to 90 degrees C. So side by side with the other product, it is fairly close to being the same as a PE product. However, the benefits there do outweigh the PEs in the standard point of flexing, so this is the reason why we've made this change with this product, which you can see is our UltraFlex line of the 195, 240, and 400, for example. On our solid center conductors, because we've already made the investment with a little bit better jacketing, we've also put the polyurethane product in play. It's excellent as far as toughness and its abrasion resistance, so it's one of the benefits and the reason why we focus on it. Once again, it is a little bit more expensive than a generic PVC or PE product, but it is designed for harsher outdoor environments with a little bit better temperature range of minus 50 to 105 degrees C. So when we look at solid center conductor products, because they are also very stiff in nature, this cable and jacketing go hand in hand very well. So with our 195, 240, and 400, and 600 solid products, this is the type of jacketing that we use with these items. So now we start looking at a little bit more exotic type of jackets. We'll start with the FEP. A lot of people have plenum applications where they're going into buildings where there's issues with in regards to fire or chemical resistance, or they need something a little bit more stable. FEP has been used in dielectrics, but we also do focus them as far as jacketing products. So our plenum products have FEP jackets on them, and that's our 195, 240, and 400 plenum. And what you can see there is that the temperature range is really the biggest difference that we start to jump from the standard jackets going to a minus 65 to a 200 degrees C. Now, we'll talk about the next product, which is the Teflon cables, which can be easily confused, but they are used for two different applications. So now we jump into the PTFE products. They have an outstanding temperature range, very low loss, and chemically inert, but because they're more expensive, we start to use them on higher military or other RF cables for microwave. Typically in a lot of these cables, we also include the silver products because we want to make them perform to the highest RF performance as well as having the best results in environmental. This is our 316, 142, 400, and 393 products, for example, which have an outstanding temperature range of minus 65 to 260 degrees C, and they're generally crush resistant. So in a lot of cases where they're going through door jams or going into areas where potentially the cable could get damaged, a PTFE product environmentally is strong, but it's also physically a stronger product as well. So one of the more exotic products that we have is the ethylene tetrafluoroethylene product, which is a little bit tougher than the PTFE, and it's a stronger jacketing type of material. It is a lighter weight material, but it is a little bit less as far as performance in temperature range, but still popular for aerospace and high reliability RF cable assemblies. It is something that we can offer as a special, as a custom build. So if you have any questions on some of this, or it is in your specification, please let us know, and we can also look at quoting it accordingly. Our last jacketing material is our low smoke zero halogen product. Typically it's used in non-toxic applications for fire ratings where a chase is unavailable. A lot of people do see this in cat cables, and the jacketing material is very similar for the RF coax. Because it is a stiff material, we generally offer it with our 195 solid, 240 solid, and 400 solid series. The temperature range does vary based on different applications and needs, but our standard product off the shelf is rated for minus 40 degrees C up to plus 80 degrees Celsius. If there's any questions, you can always ask us for other jacketing applications because the product is generally built to order for your needs. So typically with the jackets, it's based on a number of factors. First is the environment that we talked about, whether it's indoors or outdoors. The next is the temperature range, depending on how hot or cold your application is. Another big point is the stressing, whether it's static or continuously flexing, because once again, there are jackets that can be just as stiff as center conductors or just as flexible as the stranded types. The next is the lifetime expectation. The standard is 20 years. We do have a few products that have a standard of 30 years. If you have questions on that, I can always fill you in on the details for that. And then the last piece is, do you have any compliance issues? Some products go into cable trays and fire-rated chases, but in other applications, they could be sitting out there for fire safety, aerospace needs, or military standards that you have to comply to. We can always find a product that can fit your needs. So how do we at ABR Industries differentiate ourselves? One is we maximize our jacket offerings. We do standardize on UV resistant and direct burial characteristics. We do a lot of testing with mechanical flexing, chemical tests, reporting from the pellet manufacturers to make sure that our products are compliant. Our people are highly proficient with the compounds that they're extruding with the jacketing, and we have over 30 years of experience working with those products. We also work with a lot of raw materials. We utilize multiple manufacturers with different ISO and RoHS standards to make sure that they're all in compliance. So overall, we don't take any shortcuts when we make the product for you. Thank you very much for your time. If you have any questions on the jacketing or any other questions on our products, you can visit us at abrind.com or give us a call at 713-492-2722. Have a great day.